I'm Maheshika Halbeisen, and this is the Queen Elizabeth Leadership Podcast, the show where we discuss the leadership lessons from the book The Job Well Done, The Queen's Way to Successful Leadership.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Ever think you could learn leadership from a queen? We're diving deep into The Job Well Done, The Queen's Way to Successful Leadership.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But we're not talking about, her whole life story, are we?
No worries. We're just focusing on Chapter 1, Staying on Course. We're going to break down how Queen Elizabeth II really lived out these leadership principles.
Now that I can get behind. So what's the big takeaway? What made her leadership style so special?
Well, it's interesting because the book goes beyond just saying be humble or work hard. It's more about how she actually embodied those qualities.
Okay, I'm listening. Give me an example.
So they have this whole section on humility as a superpower.
Right. I've heard that phrase before.
But then they hit you with the story about her serving as a mechanic during World War II.
Wait, what? Like fixing trucks?
Yep. Even learned how to change a tire and everything. It really makes you question those images of royalty, doesn't it?
Totally. This wasn't just a photo op either. The book mentions she took her training very seriously, even used those skills later on.
Exactly. It reminds me of a quote from the book. Proper training is key. She walked the walk.
And imagine the impact that had on those around her. Seeing the queen getting her hands dirty, literally.
Totally. It really highlights the power of leading by example, don't you think?
100%. It's one thing to tell people what to do, but it's totally different when you're right there with them, showing them how it's done.
You know, it makes you think about your own leadership style. I know I've had bosses who just delegate, and it's not very inspiring.
Oh, for sure. That kind of authenticity, you can't fake it. It has to be genuine, coming from a place of humility and service, which seems like it was at the core of the Queen's leadership.
Which reminds me of another story from the book, her wedding dress.
What about it? Was it, super fancy and expensive?
Well, remember those post-war times? Rationing was still in effect, and she used ration coupons for her dress, even sent back extra ones that were given to her.
Wow, I had no idea. So it's about understanding the struggles of everyday people.
It makes you think, how often do we as leaders miss those opportunities to connect with our teams on a human level, to show that we get it?
It's a good point. Leadership shouldn't be about separating yourself from people. It's about finding that common ground, the shared values, the experiences that bring everyone together.
Which leads us to another important idea from the book, duty beyond title.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Because it's easy to get caught up in titles, right? Especially if you're the queen.
But the book emphasizes how Queen Elizabeth always saw her role as a huge responsibility, not just a fancy title.
I mean, think about it. She dedicated her entire life to serving her country. Talk about a sense of duty.
And it wasn't just talk. The book mentions how she was involved with hundreds of charities and organizations across all kinds of causes. Her sense of duty really went above and beyond being the queen.
It reminds me of that phrase, servant leadership, where being a leader is all about serving others and using your position to make a difference.
And that's something that applies to everyone, right? Not just royalty. Whether you're a CEO, a teacher, a parent, it's about showing up and serving others.
Exactly. Who are the leaders you admire most?
People who are inspiring, who really make you want to be better.
I bet they all share that same quality of servant leadership, leading by inspiring and empowering others, not by bossing them around.
It's an interesting thought experiment. What if that kind of leadership became the norm? How would that change the world?
I like where this is going. So what else did you learn from the Queen's leadership style?
Well, there's this whole other aspect that really resonated with me. Her incredible commitment to the future.
Okay, tell me more. What did that look like for her?
She truly believed in empowering the next generation. There's this one quote that stands out. No age group has a monopoly on wisdom. And indeed, I think the young can sometimes be wiser than us.
That's amazing. She understood that the future depends on young people.
Exactly. And her actions matched her words. The book talks about how she started programs like Queen's Commonwealth Young Leaders, which have helped so many young change makers around the world.
It's that ripple effect, right? Empowering one young leader can create a chain reaction of positive change.
And it doesn't have to be some big formal program either. It can be as simple as mentoring someone at work or volunteering in your community.
Right. Or even just being a good role model for the kids in your life. It all makes a difference. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Oh, are we already at that part?
I know, right? Time flies when you're dissecting royal leadership. But you mentioned the book connects the Queen's story to other inspiring people, like Mother Teresa and Bill Gates. That's fascinating to me.
I'm with you. And that, my friend, is a conversation we will pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. Stick around as we explore those connections and see what other leadership gems we can unearth. Welcome back to our deep dive into the job well done. Last time we were talking about the Queen's leadership.
Yeah, we were getting into some pretty fascinating stuff about her approach.
And remember how the author ties in these other leaders, like Mother Teresa? It's like, what do they have in common with royalty?
It seems kind of random at first, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense.
Right. So how does Mother Teresa fit into all of this?
Well, the book talks about how both women, Mother Teresa and the Queen, really lived out those values of humility and selfless service.
And that whole servant leadership thing we were discussing, that's Mother Teresa in a nutshell.
Exactly. It's about using your influence to help others, not to gain power for yourself.
And she really walked the walk. I mean, dedicating her entire life to serving the poorest of the poor. That's incredible.
It is, and she never sought recognition for it. She always said she was just a pencil in the hand of God.
So inspiring. It really makes you think about what truly matters, doesn't it? It's not about money or status. It's about making a difference.
It's about that impact you have on others, and that's something Queen Elizabeth emphasized too, leaving the world a better place than you found it.
Which brings us to, I guess, the most unexpected comparison. Bill Gates. What does a tech giant have in common with the Queen?
That's what I thought. But the chapter focuses on his work with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, tackling things like poverty and healthcare.
Oh, right. I always forget he does so much philanthropy.
He's channeled his wealth and influence into some truly incredible causes.
And remember that giving pledge thing, where he's convinced all these other billionaires to give most of their money away.
Talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
It really shows that leadership isn't tied to one specific role. You can be a leader in any field.
It's about seeing a need and then using your skills and resources to address it.
And sometimes those actions can inspire others to do the same, kind of like a ripple effect.
Exactly. And that brings us to what I think is a pivotal point in the chapter. The author poses these two really thought-provoking questions.
Oh, I love a good thought-provoking question. Hit me with them. What's the first one?
Okay, get ready. It's this. What am I constantly thinking about? What am I constantly thinking about? It seems simple, but I bet it's deeper than it sounds. Right, like, at first, you might think of all the random stuff that pops into your head. But if you really pay attention,
You start to notice patterns, those recurring themes, the things that keep coming up, even when you're not trying to think about them.
exactly. It could be a hobby you're passionate about, a problem you're determined to solve, anything.
It's about identifying those things that really light you up, the things you could talk about for hours.
And don't dismiss anything as insignificant. It all contributes to the bigger picture of who you are.
You know, it's funny. When I think about the things I'm most passionate about, they often connect to some kind of problem I want to solve.
Exactly. And that leads us to the second question the author asks. Are you ready for this one?
Lay it on me.
Okay, here it is. What must be done that I know I can do and know something about, but if I don't own it, it will not get done?
Wow, okay. Let me think about that for a second. What must be done that I know I can do, but if I don't do it, it won't get done? That's powerful.
Right. It's about taking responsibility for making a difference. It's about realizing that we all have unique skills and talents that can benefit the world.
And if we don't step up and use them, who will? It's kind of a call to action, isn't it?
Totally. It's about finding that intersection between our passions, our abilities, and the needs of the world around us.
It's like the Queen's dedication to her duty. But on a personal level, we all have our own unique kingdoms to rule.
Love that analogy. It's about showing up as the best, most impactful versions of ourselves, whether it's at work, at home, or in our communities.
This is really making me think. So we've explored the Queen's humility, her commitment to service, and even how her story connects to these unexpected figures like Mother Teresa and Bill Gates.
It's all about those timeless leadership principles, right? The ones that transcend titles and positions.
And those principles, they're attainable for anyone. But before we get too far ahead, there's one more chapter we need to dive into.
Oh, you're talking about the Queen's legendary work ethic. Buckle up, because that's a whole other level of impressive.
You already know I'm ready to dive into that, but we'll have to save it for the grand finale of our deep dive. Stay tuned, back again, ready to finish our deep dive into the job well done.
Let's do it. We left off on a bit of a cliffhanger, talking about the Queen's work ethic.
Which is a whole other chapter in this book. So, spill the tea. What made it so legendary?
It's more than just, working hard. It's about the dedication she brought to everything, even the little things.
Give me an example. Paint me a picture of this work ethic in action.
Okay, so imagine this. It's like her 90s, right? And she's still got this jam-packed schedule. Engagements, meetings, public appearances. It's nonstop.
Okay, that alone is impressive. I'm not sure I had that kind of stamina now. But it wasn't just about showing up, right?
Oh, no, not at all. The book talks about how she prepped for everything, like really did her homework, read all the briefing papers, knew every detail.
It's like that quote, proper training is key. She took it seriously, no matter what the topic was.
Exactly. And I think that sends a powerful message. It's about giving everything your best shot, even if it seems small or insignificant.
Makes you think twice about those times you slack off, huh? Maybe we could all use a little of that queen-level dedication. But how can we actually cultivate that kind of work ethic?
It starts with those questions we talked about before. What am I always thinking about? That passion is key. The Queen's why was her Dewey. When your why is strong, the rest often falls into place.
So it's about that intersection. Passion meets purpose.
And then it's about setting those high standards for yourself, like even when nobody's watching.
So discipline is key too.
Think of it like building a muscle. The Queen didn't just wake up one day with this incredible work ethic. It took practice, consistency, day after day.
Makes sense. You don't run a marathon without putting in the training. But we can't all be the Queen working into our 90s. How do we make it sustainable?
Right. The book actually talks about that. She still made time for the things she loved. Horseback riding, spending time with her family. It's about finding that balance.
Because burnout helps nobody.
Exactly. It's not about pushing yourself to the brink. It's about pacing yourself so you can consistently bring your A game.
And always remembering the bigger picture, right? For the Queen, it wasn't just about getting things done. It was about making a difference.
And leaving that legacy. It's inspiring, right, to think about the impact we can have on the world.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive. Humility, servant leadership, that incredible work ethic.
The Queen, she really embodied it all.
And the best part, those qualities aren't just for royalty. We can all strive to cultivate them in our own lives.
It's a good reminder that leadership isn't about your title. It's about those core values, your dedication and your passion.
So as we wrap up this royal deep dive, here's something to think about. What's your legacy going to be? What impact do you want to have on the world? Because we all have the potential to do extraordinary things. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep leading with purpose.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Learn from the Queen? Follow us on this podcast and get your copy, The Job Well Done, The Queen's Way to Successful Leadership. Connect with me, just search Maheshika Halbeisen and tell me how the Queen has inspired you.